Mixing with my mixing tip. Selecting the best mix bus compressor. When working in a mix, and I quite often will save the mix bus compressor till the end. So if you've watched some of my videos, recent videos, I've talked quite a bit about mix bus compression, whether to start with it, to add it on later, different approaches to using mix bus compression. But in the end, you have to kind of decide what approach that you want to use and how you want to go about doing what it is that you want to do, and figuring out which is the best one. So every compressor plugin, whether it's an SSL or whether it's a Neve or whether it's a Fairchild or whatever kind of compressor, bus compressor type of plugin that you would want to put on there, all have different sonic characteristics. They will all add something, some kind of a tonal coloration, a form of aggressiveness. And there is where you have to decide what it is that you want. So when working with any particular type of component or sound, for example, if you're working with a bass, and the bass really is lacking in presence, then instead of going to just an EQ and trying to lop on a bunch of high end, which is not really going to give you what you want, you throw on an optical compressor, because the optical compressor is going to create a smoothness and a clarity that's going to allow the low end to resonate. And also if you use something like an LA2A, adding of the tubes and the harmonic distortion of the transformers into that will also preserve a lot of the warmth while adding the clarity and not adding high frequencies. And it's a brilliant solution. For example, for a vocal that's kind of bright and brittle and needs warmth and body, you might put a Fairchild compressor, because the tube compression and all the transformers and heavy tubeness of that, it is a real true Varamute compressor, actually fills out a lot of body into it. So when you're working with a mix, it's the same type of approach. So example, in this particular example, we have a mix here. And what I'm going to do is here, I'm just going to kind of quick dial in a couple of settings. So I'm going to do something here that I like to do. I'm just going to do like fast release, like make this kind of pop a little bit. So I'll do the slow attack. So you hear how this compressor, just with a little bit of pumping movement, kind of really brings the air out on the track. And this is a true VCA compressor, the SSL bus compressor, and it has a very, very aggressive, ballsy kind of sound. Another way to approach this is to go with one that is also kind of ballsy, but in a warmer kind of way, and that's the Neve 33609 compressor. So let's have a listen to this guy. Now this one has already some dialed in settings here. Similar kind of idea, not a lot of gain reduction. Slow attack, fast release. Both add a lot of body and a lot of depth. This has a warmer characteristic to it. Always goes to the break just when I need it. Right, exactly, just when there's changes. So notice the body on the low end, particularly when the bass comes in. And then the SSL. So you can make a choice there. You could say, do I want more of the body or do I want more of the openness and the grittiness of the SSL compressor? Another option to kind of swing a little bit farther down the line would be going to the Fairchild compressor. And on the Fairchild compressor, again, we can do a similar type of approach and kind of dig out a little bit more. So fast recovery. So this is a much warmer sound than the Neve and really adds a ton more body to it. You can really hear how it softens up the snare a little bit, keeps the bite but adds some body into it, and the low end of the bass really rounds out very nicely. So let's open up all three and do a little ABC. Go to the 33609. Bit more snappiness in this, and not as much roundness on the low end. And then let's go back. So this has the least warmth on the bottom, but a brighter, snappier overall sound. And you really hear how the low end just kind of drops there on the Fairchild. So all three of them have a really, really, really cool sound to them and a really cool vibe. And then it's just a matter of what it is that you're going for in terms of an overall sound. Each one does different things. I really love what this does to the low end, and I also really love what it does to the snare. But it's like a much warmer sound. This seems to be a balance of somewhere in between these two guys. This is the most snappiest and open, right? So you really get all the bite out of the snare. It just cuts right through. This kind of pulls it back and warms it up a little bit, gives you more body on the snare, which is kind of cool. And then this gives you sort of a little bit of an averaging in between the two. And just selecting those three different characteristics, you can decide how you want to shape your mix. And pulling it together. So these are just three options, and then there are many, many others that you can get to based on what plugins, but these are three classic good bus compressor plugins. And, again, there are many others maybe I'll feature in some other videos. But here, really notice what it's doing to the individual instruments. And in particular, if we had it, what would it be doing to the vocal, and how does it stage everything? How much depth does it add? How much openness does it add? And this is really a key part of getting your mix bus compression really, really serving you well in a mix. All right, this is our Mixing with Mike tip on how to select a mix bus compressor.